Greetings, everyone. So, in this episode, Shrita and I discuss our thoughts on the first couple of episodes of the Rings of Power show. Unfortunately, I've lost some of the audio, so you won't get to hear our full thoughts, sadly. But just by way of recapping, we both liked the show, but were somewhat hesitant about a number of choices. Shrita in particular was hesitant about the dialogue and the script, and I was a little hesitant about some story choices. For example, Gil-galad sending or giving permission to the elves to return to Valinor. I know there were quite a few people who were uncertain about that. So in this part of the audio which you're about to hear, we discuss in a little more detail the response to the show. And hopefully next week when we record an episode on episode 3 of the show, we'll be better organised, or I'll be better organised in terms of the audio. Unfortunately, we had just had some technical difficulties and I wasn't able to retrieve that the first part of the audio, so sorry about that. But as always, thanks for listening, and if you'd like to join in the discussion with us, we're on Twitter at ReadingPod. I also have a Substack, of course, which is called Reading Tolkien, and I post the episodes there too. So you're welcome to comment there as well. Thanks very much, and see you on the other side. I was talking about Michael Drout's opinion piece in the New York Times. Michael Drout is a Tolkien scholar, and he wrote an opinion piece called, what is it? Please don't make a Tolkien cinematic universe. So I quite agree with this. It didn't really give an opinion on the show because that wasn't the point of the article, but the point of it really was to point out that Tolkien is not really suited to cinematic adaptation as a cinematic universe because it's not just a franchise, it's a literary work with a very particular flavour which really comes through Tolkien's writing. So if you're going to adapt Tolkien and make it something that is Tolkien-esque, then you've got to bear that in mind, I think, and that's really true. And we've already talked about ways in which maybe this show tries to be in the writing and perhaps doesn't always succeed, and we'll see going forward how that goes. But I tend to think that well thought out criticism and critique like that should of course be listened to, and it shouldn't all be lumped in together. I think we can discount the kind of hate people on YouTube, the hate mongers on YouTube. They're not saying anything useful, but there is other critique from other corners that is worth listening to, certainly. So I just want to make that point that it's not all criticism isn't all coming from a place of hate and horribleness, but it's sometimes coming from, more often than not, hopefully coming from a place of love for the text, and I think that's legitimate. So yeah, go and search out that article if you want to read something on this point, because I think it makes the argument fairly well. So yeah,
that's worth saying, I think. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
yeah, and that argument is why it's surprising to me that they didn't maybe pay more attention to the writing. But
I think they've tried to, but in some cases maybe it hasn't quite worked out. And I think it's hard to adapt Tolkien because there are so idiosyncratic features of the books that make it hard to put on screen. But we'll see how it goes. So I think, I don't know, is there anything else you want to say regarding those two episodes? I think we've given our general thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Maybe I should, just so I don't sound too negative. I mean, maybe I'll say some of the things I liked. I mean.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I thought the second episode was way better than the first.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought,
interesting. Yeah.
At the end of the first, I was a little bit dispirited, and I was kind of thinking, gosh, I mean, this is going nowhere. Like, this show is completely, not in any sort of not in any, academic sort of criticism of Tolkien way. Just as a show, I was kind of like, this thing is all over the place and has no idea where it's going to go. It's going to be a disaster. But by the second, at least, it was like, okay, we got some threads to follow. We got some, people that we're interested in. We got some cool scenes. We got things that we're invested in as an audience. Um, and I think it's important to keep that in mind too. It is
Yeah.
like entertainment at the end of the day. So, um,
Yep.
and
No,
I think
that's true.
like there's like an interesting thing to do with like what is the right level of faithfulness for like a TV adaptation of
Yeah.
Tolkien, because I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I'm quite enchanted by the idea that you could make an equally horribly bad TV show by being too faithful to the text, as you could by being not faithful at all, because the text, brilliant as it is as literature, doesn't lend itself to the format of TV so well. So
No, yeah.
I think one really does need to be a sort of master of understanding what the mediums of literature and television do and what they sort of provide and what people look for when they sort of consume them.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah.
to really do a sort of good adaptation. And it's not a job that I would want, but
Yeah. Yeah.
by the end of the second, I sort of felt a little bit more hope that at least if it wasn't going to be completely faithful to Tolkien, at least it was going to be like a watchable TV show, which is at the end of the day all we really want, right? So
that's true. Yeah, look, I don't necessarily disagree with that either. I guess I just feel that if you're going to adapt Tolkien, try and adapt Tolkien. Otherwise you're making something up that's not Tolkien. So I don't know. It just
no, for sure, yeah.
But then I'm sort of the I'm a little bit more of a purist than some people, I guess. But look, again, I liked the second episode too, and I don't want to sort of say that I didn't like the show overall. I think generally I did like it. But yeah, there were just some issues that may work themselves out as the season goes on, and I'm still excited to watch it next week. So, excited to see Numenor and everything coming along. So it'll be really interesting to see how it goes over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I thought it was curious that I don't know if you have much to say about this, but I thought it was curious what they chose to do with the music.
Oh yeah,
it seems to be. I could be wrong about this, but it seems to be that they didn't. I mean, there was like a new score composed, but it was largely based off of Howard Shore's score for the Jackson movies.
Yeah, there are certainly similarities, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think even in the credits it said like based on music by Howard Shore or something. I'm not exactly sure who composed it. I'm not sure if Howard Shore had anything to do with it, if they sort of licensed the music from him and sort of made a slight variation on it or what it was, but it was very much it was like an evolution of Howard Shore,
Yeah.
And I thought that was like an interesting reflection of the general ethos of the show being very sort of Jacksonian, I guess. And another thing that I was expecting them to do, I guess, again, naively, was to just start with music that no one would think to associate with The Lord of the Rings, because it was just so different from what Howard Shore conceptualized, but they went with the same kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word or better phrase, like the sort of like, pastoral epic vibe. And a lot of them are the same themes, and it's based on the same stuff. So
well, Howard Shore
they really didn't wander far.
Yeah, I mean, Howard Shore composed the intro theme, but then Bear McCreary, who's apparently a famous television composer, did the rest of it. So yeah, it certainly takes a lot of inspiration, I think, from Shore, and he himself did the intro music. So are the main theme, as they say. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It is another Jacksonian thing that they're sort of, or Jacksonism that they're sort of keeping. I mean, as we've already mentioned, I think it'd be good to start to see adaptations really veer away from that whole aesthetic. And I'm sort of honestly, my biggest I just feel a bit tired of like that vision of Middle Earth. I just feel a bit, it's pretty and whatever, but it feels so familiar, and it's just
there are other artists and other visions of it. Certainly, when I read the books, I don't really imagine a Jackson like Middle Earth. Which again, it's just my. But yeah. So maybe as the show goes on in seasons, it will differentiate itself a bit. But again, first 2 episodes, yeah, okay, it's early days, so I'm not too worried about that yet. But yeah, certainly, Numenor looks like it'll be something a bit different, a bit more sort of exotic compared to what we've had before, which would be interesting. And it looks incredible, so I'm looking forward to that next week. But yeah, I think these first 2 episodes were interesting and promising in many respects, I think, but some issues going forward. But we'll see if they're resolved or if they sort of grow into big problems with the story. But we'll see. Yeah.
What do you make of the character of the stranger? The so-called stranger.
Look, I just don't have an opinion on it yet. I mean, I know everyone has an opinion, but we'll see. I mean, it's sort of intriguing, I suppose. But as to who it is, I don't know. Again, I just in general, I just think this is a plot line that they didn't need. But we'll see. We'll see how to integrate it into the rest of the story, etc. Could be really useful. Could be really interesting. So yeah, I'm willing to give it a go. I haven't dismissed it, but my sort of my sort of a priori opinion is that we don't need the Harfoots and hobbits and all of this, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think will require patience to see what they've done with it, as opposed to sort of making a snap judgment about it. So I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah. No, I think that's very mature of you.
Well, maybe, but yeah, I don't know. It might, yeah. And certainly, look, I enjoyed the scenes. Like, they're well done, and the hobbits are sort of cute, and they do introduce some levity and humor into the show, which is nice. I thought it was. I don't know. I did feel like it was fairly well balanced between. I guess I would have preferred it, as I've mentioned, that the sort of high seriousness to really, to really have been emphasized. But then again, if you read The Lord of the Rings itself, it is a book of many tones and sort of flavors, if you like, in terms of it. So perhaps had Tolkien written a novelization of this period, it wouldn't have been just the high serious. But we don't know because he never did. But so it's not illegitimate for the show. I don't think it's illegitimate for the show to have embraced that tone as well as part of the menagerie of its of its script. But yeah, it's one of those wait and see.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, I mean, you have to stick with me here for this analogy, but
yeah.
There's a thing that happened often, and when I was in school, and in music school, I mean, me and a lot of my friends, pretty much every student, you'll have this moment where you go to a lesson and you think you have this brilliant new way of playing a piece that no one has ever done before, and you'll try it out on your teacher, and you'll think, what you expect to get back is just praise and adoration and like, oh my God, I can't believe you like figured this out, and what you get back is just a big fat meh, like it wasn't that great. And and you think like, why? Like my intellectual conception of this was so great. And what you learn there is, it's not about the conceptualization of anything, but it's about how you do it and how convincing it is, and everything like that. And there are nearly a countless number of great ideas that are just sort of executed in a subpar way, and they don't just quite make it, and I kind of feel that that's what's happened with again, I should be a little bit more mature maybe and reserve judgment until later episodes, like you are with the Harfoots and the stranger and stuff like that. But I can't help but shake that feeling, like that there's like a student there who had a really good idea and is like but why can't you say that I've had a really good idea? It's like, no. The idea is fine, but it's executed in a way that's just not, it doesn't quite make sense. And it's hard to say what would make sense, because if I knew the answer, then I'd be writing for Hollywood. But yeah, there's something there. It's like I can't let go of the notion that like you can make almost anything work if you can write it well enough.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And for me, just didn't all that stuff just didn't quite work. But I'm willing to, like you said, I'm willing to stick it out, because it was like intriguing enough, especially at the by the end of the second episode with the with the scene with the fireflies and everything. I was like, okay, this gives me like a new lease on life on this plot line. So hopefully they shine, in later episodes. I am like rooting for them, right? I don't want to. I don't want the show to flop, and I don't, not least because I don't want to spend hours of my life going forward watching a shitty show. Because I'm going to watch it regardless. So.
Yeah. Well, me too. Yeah, I think it has enough going for it that it's interesting, and I want to see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, there's no. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it just completely bungled it. That's not what I think. Unlike those, those hideous and horrible orcs online, but on YouTube. But and we all know who we're talking about there. Yeah.
Is this the if you really want to, you can cut this part, but is this the is this the, I forget his name now, but that Christian guy, that him and his sort of cronies?
Which one are you talking about? I don't know.
We did an episode about him a while back, or maybe it was not one that aired, because maybe we had a lot of technical difficulties. I forget his name, but there's like a particular that guy. Is it like him?
No, it's not him.
His bros.
No, definitely not him. He's not like that. He's if anything, he's really ingratiated himself into the into the show as a kind of commentator, and that goes too far the other way for me. He's often there's a lot I have to say about that guy. I mean, he's this very personable character, but I think he seems very, very willing and quick to ingratiate himself in with the people making this show. And I don't know how he can maintain any sense of critical distance that way, because it seems like he's just become a kind of consultant for the show, or at least, and without sort of necessarily signing a contract for them. And I remember this happened when the Hobbit movies came out. It took a long time to come around to the fact that, or to come around to the opinion that he didn't like them. He was really defending them when they came out. And he doesn't, of course, he sort of elides that now. I think that there's a little bit of dishonesty going on there. Because he'll say now, oh, well, yes, of course I don't like the Hobbit movies. But at the time, gosh, he was really defending them. And I feel like it's going to happen with this too. Anyone who criticizes the show, he's going to accuse them of sort of doing so in bad faith. And he'll often, he'll often make the insinuation, essentially, that people criticizing the show are doing so out of ignorance. And, well, how do you know this? And, for example, the Hobbits, when the Hobbits were revealed as being in the show, his excuse is, well, we know that they're around in the Second Age, so there's nothing contravening the text. It's like, yes, but that's not the point. The point is, should they, not could they, right? It's a judgment call, and yeah, the fact that may not contravene the text doesn't mean it's a good sort of dramatic idea necessarily. So I find his sort of defense of these products, it's like one doth protest too much. It's like, why do you feel like you need to go to this length to defend the show, like, or the Hobbit movies or whatever? And so I don't know, that he's a funny, odd character. But no, so it's not him making all that hateful commentary, but he's on the other extreme, really.
I see. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really a fan of his approach.
Who is making these hateful comments?
Well, there's these YouTubers like Nerdrotic is the most famous one. This just hideous person. Just they'll sort of make they make these cringe-inducing hyperbolic videos about how terrible it is, but then they're YouTube what do you call them? Like the God, now I can't think. What's the thing you put on the YouTube? Like the image you have when you
the thumbnail.
The thumbnail, yes, thank you. On the thumbnail, they'll put like black characters in the show, and they'll make exaggerated sort of almost caricatures of them, and it's very racist, and they are racist. That they protest that they're not, and when people call them racist, they say we're being of course we're being persecuted, but they really are. They're hideous people, and I don't know why. They do get a lot of views, and I don't know why this is the case. I mean, they're Trump affiliated. They're from the whole MAGA side of things, really. And
I mean, unfortunately, I think America's pretty racist.
Yeah, and they absolutely are.
I want to sound like a woke libcock fag over here, but
no, that's okay. I mean, yeah. So there's a set of those people, and they're it's not an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole to say that they are a bunch of racist, homophobic people. That's not just a slur. That is, they absolutely are that, and they really, when it suits their purpose, they will make that fairly clear, and when it suits their purpose, they'll deny it. So, I don't think their opinions need to be listened to. I don't think they say anything either useful or interesting, and I think they should absolutely just be ignored. They're not fans of Tolkien. They're cultural warriors from the right, the far right, and usually in some variety. And they're absolutely to be completely ignored, I think. But no, Corey Elson is not one of them. He's the sort of the other extreme. He's just in some sense, not politically, but the other extreme in his defense of the show. Just the lengths he will go to make excuses for, dramatic, any sort of writing decisions. He would just really, I don't know why he has this penchant for ingratiating himself with the studios, but he seems to. Happened with the Hobbit movies too. And then he'll sort of
clearly it's paying off. So
well, then he'll deny ever having, like with the Hobbit movies. Yeah, like I said, it's like now he'll say, "Oh, they're terrible movies," but then he won't mention the fact that he spent quite a few years trying to defend them, and only came around when he saw that it was really an untenable position. So yeah, I'm not saying he's a grifter. I don't think he is. I think he all comes from a good place, but yeah, that's there's something weird going on there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, some people are kind of more inclined to sort of just be ingratiating, I guess. It's not necessarily.
Yeah,
I don't love the term grifter just because it seems to make assumptions about the sort of moral character of people. Where I
absolutely
think most people are largely good.
Yeah,
But yeah, their priorities or their personalities can make them, let's say, more or less susceptible to making work that's not really worthy of consumption.
Yeah.
Full of hot air, let's say.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see how the show goes over the next few weeks.
Interesting to hear that. Like I said, I saw a bunch of stuff about various backlashes to it on Twitter, and I haven't really clicked through just because I don't know. I just haven't had the energy to deal with it. So it's interesting to hear it. I guess I kind of expected it, but
yeah. Look, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
And Tolkien, being himself somewhat conservative, although in a Catholic traditional sense, and also weirdly progressive for his time in some ways, is an odd figure to place. So, it's both easy for right-wingers to try and, use him, but also not. So it's a really weird situation. But it's always been the case that people of every political persuasion have claimed Tolkien for their own. So this is just that, but writ large. Again, you know, and we are going through a weird cultural moment where, you know, culture tends to be just, you know, partisan, highly partisan. Anyway, especially in your country. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. My pleasure, man.
Look, it's here too. It's really everywhere, isn't it? I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's an online thing more than a geographical thing, I think.
I do have to ask. I mean, you know, what do some of these people expect? I guess. I mean, let's say, for example, I don't believe this, but let's say that that I believe that purely as an aesthetic thing, Tolkien should not feature Tolkien adaptation should not have people of color in them. Let's say, you know, to be clear, again, I don't believe this. I don't want to get screwed on this later, but what exactly do these people think is the way forward on that? Like, put forward a casting call and say, you know,
presumably,
you know, people with melanin need not apply. I mean, like,
well, they think it's sort of betraying Tolkien's.
How does this work in the modern world?
They think it's betraying Tolkien's cultural legacy. Like, they often come out with this idea that this mythology is for England and therefore for white people. Which is wrong anyway. Like, that was an early,
a bit rich. Yeah.
That was a sort of early idea of his, like, which is not related to sort of racial questions, but more to this. Some of the late 19th, early 20th century cultural situation in Europe that, you know, where sort of nations were sort of recovering mythologies for themselves, especially in Northern Europe. And, you know, part of his original conception, which did not really last until was something that was in the past by the 50s, was that his mythology in the Book of Lost Tales would sort of be one that was authentically English in a cultural sense. But by the time he was writing The Lord of the Rings, that conception had really given way to something a lot broader and was sort of disconnected from that earlier 20th century cultural context, or at least mostly disconnected from it. So, you know, no, I don't think there's really any reason for. I don't think these people have much to stand on in the sense that, you know, that this world is something that is only white. Well, I mean, that's not true anyway, because, you know, even in the text. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't exactly know what these people want, but yeah, definitely what they view it as sort of the cultural destruction of another, you know, well, we've had, you know, everything else in the culture has been destroyed by woke. So now this is the next thing. And I don't think that's what's happening in the show at all. It is not, the show does not the show does not do that. That's just not true of what the show does. And having Galadriel be a warrior is not a contravention of her character, for example. I mean, it is a reasonably legitimate interpretation of her earlier life, to have her as a central character who wields a sword. But, you know, these people won't hear that. They'll say, no, anyway. So, yeah.
No. Sorry. You were breaking up a bit for me there. So I'm sorry if I.
That's okay.
But hopefully in the edit that'll.
Yeah.
But if anything, I mean that interpretation of Galadriel that they have is a bit too too much family values for her sake, right? I mean,
yeah, true. Yeah,
she's a bit more Hillary Clinton than they let on. You know, she's not so much you know, pining for her dead brother or anything. So I don't know. I mean, that makes no sense. But on top of it all, like I still don't just get what universe they envision where you could make one of the most expensive pieces of media in the history of the human race, and say, you know, for example, you know, blacks may not. Blacks need not apply. You know, that would be bonkers.
I think what they want is just
is that what they
a tradcath Eurocentric Euro ethno state thing. That's what they want it to be. It's not that.
So
yeah.
Bonkers. Yeah. No, I feel it when I hear you talking, and I feel it in myself too. So I'm glad to get it out in the open. But I just I hate these people because they go against the principles of, I guess, broadly speaking, cosmopolitanism, which is to me the most important thing. It's been the thing that has made my life like interesting and possible. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it's unfortunate that whole thing has been drawn into this, but hopefully, I'm hoping it won't wreck the show. Like in the sense that Amazon won't see that and be like, okay, well, yeah. I'm hoping they'll continue to make the show and in the way that the creative team wants to make it, and I hope that the corporates don't interfere too much. So.
I don't think it will. I think they know that this is a loud mass of people that will.
Yeah.
They've congregated for now. As it's opening, but they'll probably die out in a week, if not two, because they've got some new shit to go mob. Then I don't think they have any real valued sort of criticism of this. I think that they're going to move on as soon as there's another thing to sort of mob towards. So, their memories are short, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything to add? I think we've said. Well, I feel like I've said what I think at the moment about the show, which is
more or less.
So maybe I've come around a little bit to be a bit more positive in the course of this conversation. I don't know, but certainly I'm mostly with it. Yeah, but some choices which we'll see. Where they go, whatever. But good start mostly so far.
I think we're both on the same page, which is sorry, go on.
No, yeah, I was just going to say a good start mostly from my point of view, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're both on the same page, which is that it may have some criticism, but it's nowhere near what people have been levying against it online. So it's fine.
All right. Well, we'll be back next time for episode 3, probably, or we might wait until we might tackle, say, episode 3 and 4 together. We'll see how we go. We haven't discussed that, but depends how often we can do.
Do you know if they're going to be releasing 2 at a time, or
no? So
is it now?
From now it'll be 1 at a time. Yeah. So we might want to package them and do them sort of fortnightly or something, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
And I also still have yet to upload the Silmarillion episode. We did, but we will get back to the Silmarillion sessions soon, hopefully. And yes, and that'll be good because we'll be sort of reading along as the show goes, so that'll be nice. And for everyone else, enjoy the show this Friday, which again we'll be going to Numenor, which will be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm feeling I'm going to really love that. I don't know why, but just the pictures of it I've seen so far look spectacular, so it'll be good. Of course, a lot depends on the writing and the characters, but we'll see. Certainly the money is there to make it look good. So thanks everyone, and thanks Shrita.
Is that figure of $1 billion?
It's true. I think in aggregate, like they paid a whole lot they paid $250 million for the rights, and then $750 for the first season. I think something like that.
Okay.
So I think I assume that includes like advertising and everything. And something that we didn't talk about, but perhaps we could address next time, is that I thought that the marketing campaign was legitimately horrendous for this show and really didn't capture the actual product very well. So hopefully they'll fire their marketing team and get a new one, because they really need to work out how to advertise this show properly. Which is so bad. But
we should talk about that next time. I'm curious what you think about it.
Because there are a couple of good trailers, and then there were a couple of absolutely hideous ones, and I was thinking, who on earth made the decision to release this? So we can come back to that. But maybe that's something to table for now and speak about next time after we talk about Numenor in episode 3. So we'll do that. And thanks again. And I should learn to do this. I still haven't learned to do this properly, but you can find us at you can find us on Twitter at podreading, at POD reading, pod reading. And I also have a Substack, which is kind of basically the website for this show, which is called Reading Tolkien Substack. So very occasionally I'll write something on there. And so that's where you can find us. And otherwise, we'll be back soon to talk about the next episode. So thanks, Shrita, and have a good evening, wherever or whatever it is where you are.